Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on July the 21st in the year of our Lord 2026, 2/3 of the way through July. It's amazing how time flies when you're having fun, isn't it? All right, well, we've got a lot of great information for you tonight, so let's go ahead and click over here to Murtech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel. This is the live stream we're going over tonight, episode 1985. Let's go ahead and jump into this. All right, let me pause that. We're going over to, and it looks like Viper Senior has joined us, and Glow has joined us. So, hello. I'll get back with you here momentarily. All right, let's slide down here and click the Show More button to expose the description box, expand it out. And we have information from Dan Bongino, Black Conservative Perspective, Dr. Steve Turley, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I do have some shout outs to give. Looks like Glow says, hello all, Rumble number 3, good deal. And shared on Facebook and X. Thank you very much. GP Wolco01, I appreciate that. All right. Also, we have Rin's Beard. Just started following my channel. Angel Fire 1967 just started following my channel. Flying Doot just started following my channel. One Grandmom just started following my channel. Alina Marie 12 just started following my channel. Mike Hockey 0912-1958. I wonder if that's September the 12th, 1958. That might be Mike's birthday. Alrighty then. My wife's birthday is September 16th, 1958. So you're a few days older than she is, if that is your birthday. Okay, Cody 24, Kyle 20 just started following my channel. Jimmer 20 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy your content. All right. Let's jump down here. Debbie BS reposted my episode 1984. Debbie BS also reposted my video, my extra 767B. Glow commented on my daily news wrap-up. Viper Senior and Cotton Ball 31 commented on my episode 1984. Steph Feng 101 commented on my daily news wrap-up. Debbie BS commented on my extra 767A. Little dyslexia there, I guess. Debbie BS also commented on my extra 767B. And H. Wald 57 commented on my extra 767C. So let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up here. Thank you so much, folks, for reposting my videos and your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback and definitely appreciate your support. And Viper Senior has given us a comment already. Good evening, fellow patriots. Where we go one, we go all. Rumble 4 tonight. All right. So anybody else want to rumble? Want to give me a thumbs up? I would appreciate that. Okay, we got 12 people watching here, it looks like. But let's go ahead and get into this. Dan Bongino, this is going to end badly. Episode 57, I'm sorry. I don't know what. Episode 2757. Okay, let's get into this. Uh-oh, let me get this up. I thought I had this set up.
Billionaire who's the president of the United States. People's outside. You look at the success for the New York. That's it. Okay. Donald Trump. Exactly how bag.
There we go.
Plus, you United blackout. All right, fellas,
here we
let's go. I told you about the op yesterday. How the very same people pushing for the International Criminal Court of Tyrants to arrest Donald Trump the second he leaves office and travels outside of the United States. The same people are pushing to arrest Netanyahu too, because they know the second they mention the Jews or Israel, that a bunch of people go, oh, I love the ICC. Even if the ICC is going to arrest you too. Why do you think, I saw this, I don't even know if it was AI, it was these radio hosts were arguing back and forth about Donald Trump. And the guy's like, you're attacking Donald Trump for being a failure? The guy's a billionaire who's the president of the United States. Like, you spreadsheet, you look like an idiot. Every businessman's had some failures along the way. Hell, I wrote a whole book about stumbling. You think anyone's had a linear line up to success without ever stumbling one time? Folks, BS. We'll talk about George Washington later. George Washington, when he was fighting for the British, he actually surrendered at Fort Necessity at one time. Lincoln had a ton of failures. Don't tell me about that. Tell me about where they ended in the net present value. Trump gets it. Here he is putting up on True Social yesterday about this ridiculous call to use the International Criminal Court warrants to start arresting diplomats at the UN in New York like Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu will not be arrested in any way, shape, or form while in the United States of America. He's fighting against the Islamic Republic of Iran, which recently killed 52,000 innocent protesters and spent the last 47 years killing American soldiers and others. Yes, Mr. President. The only ones that should be arrested are the people that led Iran into this unprecedented spiral of death and destruction, something that should have been dealt with years ago by previous presidents. Indeed, sir. Indeed. Folks, this is not going to end well. I titled today's show that. Sometimes I'm not the best. I like to do the titles to the show myself. Those come out of the genesis of the title is in Dan Bongino's early morning brain. I am not the best guy at titles for sure, but I like to control everything myself. A little bit of a control freak in that respect. That was my point. Thank you, Justin. We did not plan this. Justin's like, yeah, this one came too early at 2:30, which is a little bit after I left the office because I do some show prep afterwards. This title was so obvious to me because I'm telling you, folks, this is not going to end well. This side pushing for the International Criminal Court to arrest everyone in the Trump administration, including the president and his family, to arrest Netanyahu. They are obsessed with the violent internal takedown of America, and they will do anything they can to psyop you into taking part of it, even if it involves the destruction and burning down of your own community. They don't care. The op is real and it's transparent. You saw it again yesterday. Their obsession with violence on the left is a growing, metastasizing pancreatic stage 5 cancer that is going to kill the host if we don't intercept this early. And to the Democrats out there who are still logical and have a compass true north, the whole Democrat Party hasn't been corrupted yet, but it's getting close. Even listen to guys like Van Jones. Van Jones is out there saying this is really dangerous. You've got Fetterman out there. This is really dangerous. Did we ever play that Fetterman thing yesterday? Well, I don't think we did, right? Do we try to pull that for the end of the show? Hold on. I'm going to take a note here. Sorry, guys, but this is a live show and I don't want to forget Fetterman. Fetterman's thinking about leaving the Democrat Party. To the Democrats out there who are still saying, we need you. We're cleaning up infiltrations in our party by bad actors. You guys have to do the same.
Okay, now, Fetterman leaving the Democrat Party. Now, he never said he was going to run on a Republican ticket, but if he does, I feel down deep inside that he will be a rhino because he's not voted on the Save America Act, okay? He's not voted to pass that. Now, there's been a lot of things that he has voted on, siding with Donald Trump, but if he runs on the Republican ticket, it concerns me that one of these days he'll feel the same way about the Republicans that he does about the Democrats. Okay, just saying. I think he's like a loose cannon. Is my situation on that one.
I mean, it's gotten to the point now where it's become almost like farcical. They're just love affair with violence. Did you see this ridiculous clip with this? Well, I don't know what he is. Is he like an influencer? Like, I hate that term, but this Harry Sisson, you guys know Harry Sisson? I mean, if there's any guy out there who epitomizes like the beta male, it's this guy, Harry Sisson. Right? I know. I wish I could repeat that, but you can see where he's going with that. And he's on Don Lemon's show, another like total like non-alpha male. And Harry Sisson's like, I thought this was AI. I saw it on X. He's like, yeah, I want to beat up Steve Miller or box him. What? Are you in that? Are you people insane? You guys on the left, you've got to put down the crack rocks. It's no good. There was that song in New York, Your Mama's on Crack Rock. It's bad. Please put down drugs. Remember the Nancy Reagan thing? This is your brain on drugs. Put the crack rock down. This is an actual clip. He wants to box people now. Folks, please, on the left, stop being stupid. Stupid's a choice. You don't have to make that choice. Check this out.
I've suggested to people before in interviews, I'm like, I want to fight them. I think
fight them?
Yeah. Like if Stephen Miller would agree, or one of the Trump children, or like anybody in the administration, I want to fight them.
God, you know what? That I would go paid to see on the White House lawn.
That's what I'm saying.
In a UFC.
Why are we doing the UFC event? Why don't we just settle some political beef? I'll take anybody in the White. I boxed for 4 years. And if they want to, I'd get back into training camp, get in the best shape of my life, and go fight one of them.
I would do it too.
Yeah. That's what I feel like there's so many people that would do it.
This is not funny. This is not a funny topic. I really am. I'm really sorry. This is not funny. It's a little, okay, you're right. It's actually, you want to see something? Here, I'm going to read this. This is my handwritten notes. Well, the lights kind of wash them out. The liberal love affair I take very few notes, but little like bullet points. I have liberal love affair with violence is not funny. I'm telling you, it literally says, sometimes it's funny. Muttley's in the chat. Maybe he should fight, like he wants to fight anyone. What about Mark Wayne Mullen? Isn't he like a UFC fighter or something like that? Wasn't Mark Wayne Mullen like an MMA guy? You see how stupid this is? Then they're going to go, well, I'll get my guy. I'll pay like Brock Lesnar. You get how dumb this is? The escalating stupidity of violence in politics? To even mention it is beyond absurd. Because folks, it has serious real world consequences. This is why I say like, it's not funny, but with this guy, it's like, you see that guy? The guy couldn't fight his way out of like a soaking wet paper bag at like Edwards Supermarket. I'd be struggling. It's a serious problem. We saw it again yesterday. The left, unlike the right, we do not accept violence. There is not a single credible right-wing MAGA libertarian Republican out there on any of these cable news or anyone with an audience out there saying, I'm the violent overthrow of the United States. There's just not. There are people saying it and they're isolated out of the movement because we understand the escalating stupidity of violence. Well, I'll get Mark Wayne Mullen. Well, I'll go get this guy. I got this former MMA guy who's all of a sudden hates the Jews and everything too. Nobody's going to win. Everybody dies in the end. That's why we don't do it that way. That's why we don't do our politics internally that way. Was this hard to understand? Look what happened yesterday up at the FBI New York field office at 26 Fed. Some lunatic, again, according to the information we have now, in the early information that's come out from the FBI briefing, spouting anti-American, anti-ICE nonsense, goes with this incendiary, probably just gasoline, some gas or whatever it is, and lights it on fire, has a bunch of weapons in a backpack. This has real-world consequences. You can hear the woman in the background. Can't believe this is happening. This is how many incidences of left-wing violence, incidents are you going to have of left-wing violence before you in unanimity call this stuff out and say, hey guys, like enough's enough. Maybe it's time to seek out, I can't believe I'm saying this, like a Van Jones or Fetterman and go, what are we doing wrong here? Folks, this is a serious, serious problem. This never, ever ends well. Once you put the guillotine in the plaza and start screaming off with their heads, it's your head next.
He's absolutely right here. I mean, there were a lot of people that were upset about the 2020 election. And, they made all this bullshit up about January 6th, okay? That was a situation where they were peacefully assembled at the Capitol building. And there were people inserted by government agencies in the crowd, which got them riled up. Okay? And Donald Trump told them to peacefully disperse. Okay? Then they lied about that. They said that he told them to go down there and be violent. But my point to this, there was a lot of people upset about the 2020 election and Biden being in office and some of the things that he did. Do you recall? Let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments, do you recall any reporting of conservative violence, trying to blow things up, trying to burn cars, trying to burn buildings, trying to kill people? Because I'll tell you, if there was, it would have been reported on. Even when the liberals do it, even when the Democrats do it, first they say it's a conservative. First they say it's a Republican until we find out, well, no, it really wasn't, based on, his Facebook page or his X account or whatever. This is absolutely amazing, the violence of the all-loving, all-encompassing Democrat Party. They're fraudsters from the bottom to the top, from the inside out. Let me know if you disagree with me, because I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. This will be in my daily news wrap-up. So if you want to see more of it, join me there, and you will. But let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from the Dan Bongino show. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Alrighty then. Let's jump back here and see what we got here with Black Conservative Perspective. Deranged liberal anti-ICE terrorist. This goes along with what Dan Bongino was talking about here. Arrested after planting explosives outside federal building. Again, this is utterly amazing here. So hang on just 1 second here. I'm having trouble here getting this up. Here we go. Here we go.
This is a perfect example. ICE is not about immigration. ICE is not about the southern border. ICE is about creating a paramilitary force that is answerable only to the White House, that is about opposing the nature of the Constitution itself under the pretext of immigration. And if you don't believe me, they have all the technology they need not to detain people who they know don't meet the requirement for detention, but they do it anyway. Why? To send a message. Mm-hmm. Just because they can. And because it reminds you that Big Brother is watching and Big Brother can do whatever the fuck they want. I don't want to live in that world. And so, I said this back in 2018. When I started this campaign, everyone was like, oh man, your abolish ICE stance. I was like, nope, we're not going back on that at all. I think the world is starting to catch up. The country is starting to catch up. This is not about us. This is not about our protection. This is about control. And the entire Constitution was birthed to protect us from being tyrannically controlled. That was the whole point.
Guys, oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Get away from there! Oh my God, get away from there! No, get away from there! Oh my God! Get away! Oh my God!
But yeah, those law enforcement sources confirming with Fox News Digital the man arrested is named Andrew Arabaca and that he had anti-ICE stuff on him. Take a live look at the scene in downtown Manhattan, the federal building. You can see investigators here picking up evidence right now. This building houses New York City's immigration court, ICE offices, and FBI field office. You can see that things are more calm now. Take a look at this next video. At about 9 a.m. Eastern time, things looked very different. This was right after that man set off fireworks outside the building, Arabaca. Federal agents took him into custody. They also found a pellet gun. The FBI's assistant director in charge, James Barnacle, provided an update on those injured in the attack.
2 people were injured, 1 federal employee and 1 civilian. Minor injuries. They are both treated and released.
All right, guys. So we got to talk about more far left domestic terrorism that is plaguing this country, because when Democrats, liberals, and leftists don't get their way, they always go to domestic terrorism. Okay, we've seen this time and time and time and time again. But if you listen to the mainstream liberal media and Democrats and liberals, they'll say, oh, the biggest domestic terror threat to this country is white supremacy, right? Remember how they made such a big deal about the so-called Patriot Front, which I believe is a Fed group, right? During July 4th, right? They did a little march in Washington, D.C. There was a stage photo op with some black woman on the bus, right? Yeah, they made a big deal about that, right? There was all these conversations and think pieces about what this means for America, right? The current state of America. Kind of crazy to think about, right? This is what they did on July 4th. But yet, when it comes to something like this, which is far more prevalent, right? The actual domestic terrorism that we continue to see over and over and over and over and over again, you don't see the same think pieces, right? You don't see the same outrage that we should be saying, that we would be saying if these were Trump supporters, right? If this was racially motivated in some way, if there was some way that they can blame Trump, blame conservatives, blame the right, blame Republicans, right? We would see way more outrage. But when it's far left domestic terrorists, well, see, it's just, hey, they're just upset, right? They have a right to be upset because, Trump bad, okay? Trump Hitler. ICE is Gestapo, right? They're Nazis. And this is what we have to talk about here today, as we have a suspect by the name of Andrew Arabaca, who was arrested for planting an explosive device outside of 26 Federal Plaza in New York on Monday. Now, he is described as having a bunch of anti-ICE stuff on him at the time of the attack. Okay, so again, it seems as if this was likely in response to some of the recent ICE shootings that have led to the left losing their minds, right? Democrats losing their minds, more calls to abolish ICE, right? More comparisons to Nazi Germany, etc., right? And as a result, this is what you get, okay? So without further ado, let's learn a little bit more about what happened here, because ultimately this is on the Democrats.
More information now on the breaking news. An incendiary device outside a federal building earlier this morning. This is downtown Manhattan. The FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force at the scene investigating as an anti-government attack. That's what they're calling it. Smoke billowing outside that federal building. And when ICE officers and immigration court members are there in the building, that's who's located there, as well as the New York City FBI field office. My next guest will join me by phone. He knows that building so well. James Galliano, Fox News contributor, retired FBI supervisory special agent. James, you're with me?
Yes, I am, Harris.
All right. First of all, tell me just kind of the configuration of where this device was billowing smoke, and then what you know about that building.
Yeah, so Harris, as you pointed out, I worked in that building for 2 decades, and as we come up on the 25-year anniversary of 9/11, many of us were at 26 Federal Plaza, the Jacob Javits building, that fateful day. So this is chilling and sobering. Now, having said that, everything that I'm hearing reported about what this individual had, this subject that's been taken into custody, it appears this was more performative than anything. Apparently, he had a shopping cart loaded with fireworks, some liquid that could have been used as an accelerant to start the fire. And Harris, he was armed with called airsoft guns. We use them in the military and in law enforcement to do simunition training. They basically shoot a little pellet. They're propelled by compressed air or gas or springs. They're less than lethal. So this was a performative thing because it was these are imitation guns. The building itself, it's been there since 1963. It is our tallest federal building in the entire country, 41 stories. And recently, when I say recently, within the last decade or so, the screening area was finally moved outside of the building itself on the Broadway side where this attack occurred.
Do you know why that was?
Yeah, well, post 9/11, a lot of changes to federal buildings where people could basically walk inside before they got screened. Now they're screened outside. And Harris, to your point, the Department of Homeland Security has offices inside that building. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has offices in that building. United States Citizenship and Immigration Services and the FBI. When I was in the FBI 10 years ago, I believe we had 8 to 10 floors in that building. So very target-rich environment for somebody that really wanted to do something bad. But this looked more like a performative stunt than anything else.
Oh, it's terrorism. I mean, this guy can continue to call it a performative stunt all he wants, but it's terrorism, right? People got hurt as a result, right? Or allegedly got hurt. That's terrorism. When you plant incendiary devices outside of a federal building because you want to send a message to the government, right? Because you don't like ICE, because you don't like law enforcement, you don't like enforcing our immigration laws, then that is terrorism. That is terrorism. There's no other way to frame it. Even if it wasn't quote unquote serious, right? Which it was. It is serious. When you have a device planted outside a federal building, right? There was a fire. Okay. People were hurt as a result. Yeah, that's terrorism. So let's call it what it is, right? Regardless of whether or not you think it's serious or whether or not you think that he intended to hurt people, doesn't matter. It's terrorism. And we're seeing way too much of this in this country from one side of the political aisle. Way too much of it. And part of the reason why is because we're not calling it out for what it is. And the mainstream liberal media refuses to have a real conversation about it. And these people aren't being held accountable. Who knows? Alvin Bragg will probably release this guy, right? And that's not even an exaggeration at this point. Again, this guy may walk free, considering the track record of the prosecutors in New York City when it comes to this type of stuff.
All right, I'm going to push back a little bit because having covered the Oklahoma City bombing and many things earlier in my career that sometimes could have something that happened before that looked more performative. Not saying that OKC did, but there were other instances where that would happen. This gives someone an idea, if they're paying attention, of how we react with our law enforcement. This gives someone, if they're paying attention and this were their goal, not saying it was in this instance, but anybody watching this now can see how we respond, can see, did ICE come out? Were they in the building? I have a lot of questions about how we respond and everything's on camera. And it's my job to capture it. I'm a reporter, but I'm also inside thinking about that law enforcement.
Absolutely. Well said. Sometimes incidents like this will be a probe. This will be somebody testing it out or doing it on behalf of an organization. Now, we don't know that yet. We don't know if this was someone, either inspired or directed to do this, or this was somebody with psychiatric morbidities. We don't know that yet. But lastly, I'll say this. When I was the crisis management coordinator for the FBI in New York City, two things that you just mentioned. We had a robust crisis response plan, how we would respond to an attack. It's integrated with the Federal Protection Services. It's integrated with the NYPD and a continuity of operations plan. Where would we move our operations in the event that the attack rendered part of that building and our databases, unavailable?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is great information to hear. I know that NYPD and the FBI are on it, and I'm grateful. And thank you, James, for joining me.
Yeah, I think it was irresponsible to claim that, this was performative, right? There's nothing performative about this. Is much deeper, right? We have a history of seeing this from these left-wing domestic terrorists. So, yeah, I don't think this was performative. The lead up to this, again, has been more anti-ICE rhetoric from these far-left lunatics, from the Democrat Party. They're the ones that are responsible when we see this stuff.
This all comes back to the Dems who are telling people don't comply with ICE. ICE is not a real law enforcement agency. Here's how you evade ICE. Now, you and I talked about AOC a year ago. She says, well, I'm advising my constituents of their constitutional rights. Don't open your door. Don't comply. You see signs at these protests, resist. And this is the problem. You need to comply with law enforcement. So here's my concern. I think Mark Wayne might have been one of the reasons he wanted to look at temporary pause. I'm scared to death because assault vehicles are sky high. There's been a lot of shootings. I'm scared to death that one of these days, our ICE officers aren't going to be quick enough. The bad guys are going to be quicker. And I'm going to hand another folded flag to a spouse or a child. So, President Trump's clear this policy is not going away. But it all goes back to the Dems who want to continually attack ICE and tell people to evade them, tell people don't comply, tell people to resist, and tell people ICE isn't a real law enforcement agency. You and I talked about this 1.5 years ago, Laura. I said if the hateful rhetoric didn't stop, there will be bloodshed. And I'm saying it right now. There's still going to be more bloodshed unless they shut their mouth and let ICE enforce the laws that they enacted.
That's absolutely right. I mean, these are the laws that were created in Congress, in the House. You know the steps: the House, the Senate, then the President's desk. Okay? And all three of those groups agreed on it. Might have started in the Senate, then went to the House. It might have started in the House, then went to the Senate. But at any rate, these are the laws that ICE are enforcing. And you got these Democrat politicians throwing their arms up, screaming and hollering down the street. If they don't freaking like the laws, change them. But they're not going to do that. No. Okay, there's about 5 minutes left in this. I will go ahead and let this finish up in my daily news wrap-up, but I got to move on here. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Black Conservative Perspective. I really like him. I mean, he's definitely got a level head, and he shares good stuff. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and let's see what Dr. Steve Turley has to say. Trump just obliterated IRGC forces after Iran kills American troops. Well, he's tried and tried to get some kind of deal with them, and they just keep lying, okay, and saying, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that, and then turn around the next freaking day and break the deal. So, FAFO. That's what I got to say. Let's see what Dr. Steve has to say.
Hey. CENTCOM has confirmed that last night marked the 9th straight night of strikes against Iran. CENTCOM said the operation targeted Iranian military command centers, air defense and coastal surveillance sites, maritime capabilities, missile and drone launch sites, and communications networks, all aimed at further diminishing Iran's ability to attack commercial vessels and civilian mariners transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The night before, Saturday's wave specifically hit IRGC personnel directly involved in launching the deadly attack against our troops in Jordan. On Friday, July 17th, Iranian ballistic missiles and drones slammed into a U.S. position defending our airbase in Jordan. 2 soldiers were killed in that attack. First Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan of Iwa Beach, Hawaii, and Private Isabella Gonzalez of Carrollton, Texas. Then the day after, On Saturday, the 18th, CENTCOM announced a third American service member was killed, this one in northern Iraq, while conducting a controlled detonation of unexploded ordnance from a down Iranian one-way attack drone. So here's President Trump.
Well, we feel very badly, but, you know, those great people, those great patriots were out there fighting that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran has been very, very badly damaged. They've lost everything almost militarily. They've got very little left. They've got some missiles. They've got some drones. They've got some manufacturing ability, not much. We control the strait. They don't control anything. So we'll see what happens. But we hit them very hard again tonight. And we did that in honor of the probably three. It's probably three as opposed to two. Great patriots.
And the response by U.S. forces has been absolutely fierce. Over the weekend, American firepower came down in Iran like a hammer that refused to stop swinging. Within hours of Iranian missiles killing 2 U.S. soldiers in Jordan, CENTCOM answered by hunting down and obliterating the exact IRGC units responsible for that attack, turning retaliation into a manhunt with bombs. The headquarters of the IRGC's 72nd Moharram Armored Brigade in Abadan was reportedly struck. The 72nd Moharram Armored Brigade is part of the IRGC's Khuzestan Corps that coordinates armored ground troops in Iran's oil-rich southwest. So knocking out its headquarters near Abadan directly degrades Iran's ability to defend or maneuver forces around a critical energy and border region. Then came the 9th consecutive night of strikes, 9 straight nights tearing into Iranian command centers, air defense networks, coastal surveillance sites, missile and drone launch points, communications infrastructure across the country. The bombing didn't stay on the coastline. It punched deep into Iran's interior, with strikes reportedly rocking Tabriz in the northwest, while explosions tore through the port cities of Bandar Mashar and Bandar Imam Khomeini on the Persian Gulf. At sea, the U.S. Navy enforced its reinstated blockade with an iron fist, redirecting 6 commercial vessels and disabling a 7th to keep the Strait of Hormuz locked down under American control. More than 50,000 U.S. troops are in the theater right now as we speak, and CENTCOM says they remain highly vigilant, focused, lethal, and ready. But many are asking, rightly so, with all of this bombardment, how was it even possible for Iran to strike back so effectively? If they're being so thoroughly annihilated, how in the world do they still have the missiles, the drones, and the coordination to keep killing American soldiers? That is exactly what we're about to find out. But first, did you know that U.S. military capabilities strike back? You got to understand one of the most frustrating and yet one of the most telling aspects of Iranian defenses, and that's their mosaic doctrine or their mosaic defense, which we've talked about a lot on this channel over the last several weeks. It's a decentralized defense doctrine that allows the IRGC to split up into 31 largely independent regiments in the case that their top leadership gets wiped out. So the mosaic gives provincial commanders the authority to act autonomously without waiting for Tehran's approval. And what this does, the frustrating aspect of it, is that it splits apart the Iranian military in such a way that the destruction of individual units fails to collapse the broader network, since local commanders keep fighting and retaliating on their own without needing centralized coordination. In other words, there is no central strike. Once you have the fracturing of the military in this mosaic defense, there is no, by definition, there is no central strike that can take the whole thing out. So that's why, in addition, that's why you see this sporadic, these haphazard strikes coming from Iranian forces that periodically do real damage, as we just saw over the weekend. Those are autonomous provincial regiments that periodically get lucky in their haphazard striking out. But, and this is absolutely key to get, The fact that they are in mosaic mode is an admission. And what is it admitting? It is admitting that their leadership has been wiped out. Again, this is why we say there is no single regime here. There are multiple factions within the regime, but there's no central regime anymore. The mosaic defense is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of radical weakness. It's a sign that the entire leadership, both political and military, has indeed been decapitated. And so the mosaic defense allows what's left of the regime to writhe around like a wounded animal. But a wounded animal, as we saw this weekend, can be and remains very dangerous. It's basically just a survival mechanism. It's breaking up the regime in multiple parts so as to try to survive the onslaught and then at some point get back together again. Iran at this point is still flailing around in every factional direction, trying to prove it's got teeth. But the problem with Iran is that it simply can't win what's called the escalation ladder. And escalation is always the key to ultimate military victory. An escalation ladder is a conceptual framework originally developed by strategist Herman Kahn that maps out the successive stages or rungs of intensity a conflict can move through, from diplomatic pressure and shows of force up through limited strikes, all the way to full scale or even nuclear war, allowing military and political leaders to more or less calibrate their responses at each step rather than jumping straight to maximum force. And an escalation ladder is key to ultimate military victory because it lets a stronger power apply calibrated, incremental pressure that keeps rising just enough to force an adversary's capitulation while avoiding the unpredictable risks and costs of jumping straight to maximum force. And so escalation preserves strategic control over how and when the conflict ends. The key here is that the power that always has more and higher rungs at its disposal is always the one that wins at the end. By definition, whoever wins is the one who out-escalated, who over-escalated the other. And what President Trump is repeatedly demonstrating here is that no matter what Iran does in this conflict, U.S. forces always can out-escalate them. If they strike our bases and kill 2 of our soldiers, we strike hundreds of their formations and kill thousands of their soldiers. If Iran blockades Hormuz, U.S. forces counter-blockade Iran, costing them $500 million a day, literally economically strangling them. If they try to put pressure on U.S. forces in the region by way of their proxies, U.S. international relations completely and totally isolate them among the Gulf nations diplomatically, all the while striking back at their proxies. No matter what Iran tries to pull, Trump is consistently showing that the United States can out-escalate them, which is a harbinger of precisely how this conflict will ultimately come to an end. Keep in mind, over 300 Iranian military targets were destroyed in a single week just before this latest round this past weekend. Every major Iranian naval base, coastal missile battery, port facility along the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman has been hit, and now strikes pushing deep into Iran's interior. The IRGC's ability to threaten global shipping is being dismantled piece by fractured piece. And now, after Iran spilled American blood in Jordan and Iraq, Trump made sure the very IRGC units responsible paid for it directly within 24 hours. This is the trade Iran's regime made when it decided to keep firing missiles at American troops rather than surrender. Every attack Tehran launches now gets answered with a wave of precision strikes that erases more of what's left of its military. That's the inevitable calculus that is playing out in front of our eyes. And as frustrating as it may sometimes be, it is a calculus of a regime that refuses to stop fighting a war it has already inevitably lost. Hey,
there you go, folks. And that's it. That is the problem with Iran. And that's probably why a lot of other presidents. But then again, you can't just ignore the situation, okay? As evil as they are, they want to dominate the world. Their religion, their faith, if you're not with it, then you deserve to die as far as they're concerned, okay? All right, they're holding the Strait of Hormuz hostage, making people pay tolls in international waterways. Where do they get the right to do that? Plus, the killing of people that they've done in the past. Donald Trump was right. It's just that it's one of those situations where, of course, the Democrats are going to jump all over this. They claim that, the Republicans are the warmongers. There's some that are. But if you look back in history, Woodrow Wilson was the president Democrat when we got into World War I. Franklin D. Roosevelt was the president when we got into World War II. Truman, a Democrat, got us into the Korean War. LBJ Johnson got us into the Vietnam War. So, who's the warmongers? Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video
The Gulf and Gulf of Oman.
Steve Turley. Okay, this is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Alrighty then, let's jump back here and let's take a look at what Wendy Bell might have to say on the big squeeze. Okay, let's check this out. There it is.
It's that under God thing that's got me upset today. Because in my perfect dream world, God doesn't let us go through the things that we've gone through. God doesn't let evil people live for decades doing wrong by other people. Does he? God doesn't let good people suffer. He doesn't let bad people get away with it, does he? Because that's how I feel. I'm so frustrated by this news cycle, though I'm excited, cautiously optimistic. That now the third or the fourth iteration of the times that we've spoken of all of these stories that are now coming out as, oh, I guess that wasn't a conspiracy. You guys, I want you to choose your favorite conspiracy theory. It's not going to be a conspiracy theory. It's going to end up likely being a conspiracy fact. Because the track record we're rolling on right now is pretty dang good, if I do say so myself. Think of something that is outrageous that you might not share with somebody else and say it out loud. I believe yada, yada, yada. What is it? I believe Donald Trump is a time traveler. Do you? Would you be surprised in the year 2026, after all of the things that were coming out, knowing now aliens, UFOs, all this technology, right? Nikola Tesla back in the day, and the Trump family connection to him and all. I could see it. Would you guys be at all surprised if you found out that sort of like a Back to the Future sort of situation was going on? And that Donald Trump, when he says you're on the cusp of a golden age, that he's not just talking out of his butt. He's talking to you because he's seen it. I don't know. I kind of fantasize about that one. That feels nice and familiar and comfortable to me. Is it true? I have no idea. Will we find out? Probably someday. How about another one? Here was one that I had for a while. Remember when there was talk when Amy Coney Barrett was selected to be Supreme Court Justice? She's going through her confirmation. What did we hear about Amy Coney Barrett? That she was, in fact, Joe Biden's daughter, who we were told died back in 1972. And if you looked into it for a hot second, you could connect some dots. You could be like, I could kind of see it. Now the ages don't line up and all that stuff is kind of weird, but I understand why people go into weird fantasy places because we're freaking lied to about everything. And it seems like the only safe place is to go into a totally bonkers space in your mind where you're probably not even wrong. I mean, honest to goodness, how many times have you been beaten down or at least forced into silence because you didn't want people to look at you like you were a nutcase, that you ended up being right? Hell of a lot more than you're wrong, right? And now all of the stories are coming out. Wait, what? 2020 was an inside job and who saw that one coming? Wait, you mean they were switching votes in real time? There was an algorithm that was to a point that they could have every Donald Trump vote be worth 0.75 and every Joe Biden vote be worth 1.25. What? That was right? Oh, that's right. It was right. And then how about all of they had no earthly idea how many of you were going to turn up in 2020. And they wickedly undercounted. And then election day rolls on and we show up in droves and they're like, oh my gosh. They had to stop counting the vote. Which is why you got that. This just in. Breaking news. There's been some kind of a water main break, some kind of a water emergency at the State Farm Arena in Georgia. We're going to go there live right after this. What was that? Oh my gosh, get the ballots out from under the table. How many times have I made that noise? It's true. That's what happened. How about January 6th? Are we all still believing the joke that a bunch of people who were, by the way, corralled by traffic set up to go to the Capitol that day, January 6, 2021? Do you guys all really believe that those people, none of whom had weapons on them, because they're the worst insurrectionists ever, that they went and they're like, damn it, we're going to overtake our government. We're going to throw it upside down. No, they were like, hey, pay attention to us, because what we experienced just a few weeks ago is not America. And that old bag did not win 81 million votes under no circumstances. How about this conspiracy theory for you guys? It's feeling a lot more factual. There's that one that Donald Trump has been in charge the entire time. That, yes, according to the election, Joe Biden got some unconscionable 81 million votes. Well, when you hear some audio of him taken a couple years ago by Bob Hur, special counsel, we've got a few clips of that for you. You're going to go, oh my gosh. No wonder he never campaigned. Remember all of the people talking about how they had to block off the Capitol, how they wrapped it basically to keep it secure for Joe Biden's inauguration. I heard the military that was there supposedly to oversee and protect, et cetera, turned their backs on him. I understand that flags that are actual presidential flags have yellow on the outside of them, like a fringe, and the ones that are phony baloney representing a fake president don't have the same fringe. Is that true? I don't know. Could you see it? Abso-freaking-lutely. Could you see the highest paid federal employee in America being an architect of a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic that wiped out 15 million people? Could you see that? No. Could you see the invasion of humanity that has fundamentally changed the fabric of our culture and our country? Could you foresee that happening? I couldn't. But now we have to take care of it. Now we have to fix it. Now we've got the criminals. Now we've got the problems. Now we've got whack jobs setting fires outside of a federal building in Manhattan. And you have an illegal alien apparently killing a former or a veteran on his front porch yesterday. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm angry. I'm angry because it doesn't have to freaking be this way. You can have a president who tells you what's going on, who reaches out to you directly because he knows the media suck. He knows they lie. He knows they're communist Chinese plants. And if you think I'm wrong, I'm not. He knew it. And so did hundreds of millions of Americans. The victory of Donald Trump in 2020 was the landslide of landslides. And you and I weren't supposed to talk about it. And I'm sorry, but that makes me angry. And now we have these people who are going to be like, well, yeah, we knew, but we didn't want to say anything. I am full of ire today. And my challenge on this program is to not come off as being pissed, but I am. Because damn it, our children and our grandchildren deserve better. Better. And I want this idea of MAGA to grow, to become a blanket, a wave of red, the likes of which you've never seen. Because I don't trust anybody on the left. They lie, they cheat, they steal, and they get reelected to do it all freaking over again. What is the solution? I don't know. But start talking. Put it out into the open. Speak your conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen. Because I'll say, dollars to donuts, it's probably fact. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program. How do you guys feel about that? Thank you for letting me have a little therapy. Deep Thoughts with Wendy. Therapy time. Thank you. Thank you. How do you feel about Lindsey Graham's sister taking over his Senate seat for the rest of his term? And now she says she's actually going to run for re-election. I want you to chew on that. What do you think about that? Good idea, bad idea? Let's go there next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
That's interesting. I don't know that much about her. I know that Lindsey Graham there's been people that said a lot of good things about him after he passed, but I know that he was, kind of two-faced, as it were. Yeah. But we'll see, I guess. But hell, was it North Carolina? That's up to them.
Oh, ho, ho, it's magic, you know.
Welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. My ire today, I believe, with so many of the stories we have coming up, these are things we've been talking to you about for 5 or 6 years. These are things that we presented along the way over the years, factually, responsibly, and we've not been wrong. And now the liars are being called out, but the damage is done. The election systems are corrupted. Our systems of mostly everything have been infiltrated by nefarious people who hate America. And now it's like whack-a-mole for President Trump. Go deal with this Iran situation, all the while other crap is bubbling up. That didn't have to. That we voted for it not to. That's why I'm angry. So let's talk about Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene. Now, I will freely admit to you, aside from knowing what you know about her, that she and he were very close, that when they were younger and he was an adult, but she was still a child, and their mom and dad both passed away, that Lindsey did what I would hope any brother would do or sister would do. And he took care of his sister. And he adopted her and he raised her. And she was like his child, his greatest accomplishment, his biggest pride. They were very close. And so when he died unexpectedly, it would make sense for her to fill in that spot. And then she came out yesterday and she said, you know what? Thank you very much. She was sworn in. What an honor. I think I'm going to go for the full election and do 6 years. Go for the full seat in November. Really? So I wonder what you guys think of this. Headline, Epic Times, Senator Darlene Graham to run for a full term to fill her brother's seat. Senator Darlene Graham of South Carolina is going to try to win an election to secure a full term in the U.S. Senate, she said yesterday, after being named to fill the seat left vacant by her brother's death. I've made a decision. She said to Sean Hannity, we'll play it for you in just a second. She said, I'm in. So Graham, as you know, passed away July 11th. He'd held his Senate seat representing South Carolina for 23 years. Henry McMaster, governor, put her in, yada, yada. Candidates can file to run in the special primary, blah, blah, blah. The general election slated to take place on November 3rd. Darlene, who comes from an absolutely incredible family, Trump said, has been a winner all of her life, and should she accept, has my complete and total endorsement in the special election for U.S. Senate in South Carolina. So, She took time, she said, to consider whether to enter the race. I've been praying a lot, talking to family, the love of my family, the support of Lindsay's staff. I know I'm a hard worker. I'm going to go for it. I think I can do it. I feel peace about it. Lindsey Graham had won the Republican primary earlier in the year with about 264,000 votes, yada, yada, yada. How do you feel about that? Well, think about it for a minute. As we play her announcement to Sean Hannity last night. Again, this is new Senator Darlene Graham.
I'll continue to say I've been praying a lot, talking to my family, but with the love of my family, with the support of his staff. I know I'm a hard worker. I learned that from Lindsey. He cared about the people of this state. I've worked for almost 30 years for the people of this state.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
I feel like I can do it. I feel an inner peace about it. Will it be difficult? Yes, absolutely.
So you're inclined to get in, or have you even made a final decision?
I've made a decision.
You're in.
I'm in.
I like it. I like it. You know, I might be naive. I don't know the first thing about this woman. I have a gut. I have a vibe. I don't know. Some people could be like, wow, her brother's not even buried and she's already doing this or that. Look, I'm not going to tell anybody how they grieve their individual loss. But of all the people in the United States Senate who's not been contacted by China, who's not bought off by George Soros, who's not influenced by pharma, you got a fresh slate. You got one woman out of 100. One woman who's like, you know, why the hell not? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to steal from you. I'm not going to cheat you. She says, you know what? My brother was big into Ukraine. She said her emphasis as senator from South Carolina will be on South Carolina. It will be domestic. It's not going to be about foreign wars, she said. Look, I don't like what we have. I'm looking every day at this Republican pool of suck, of disappointment, of people who pretend that they've got virtue and that there's some standard. And, oh, that's not how history does it. Oh, it's this storied Senate. No, you work in a freaking swamp. You literally tend to a damn sewer. Do you have any idea, as senators in these United States, the disdain with which most of us look at you? I pity you. You can't pass one damn thing. You couldn't do it before, and you can't do it now. And Lindsey Graham's little sister gives me more feeling like I'm going to put my eggs in that basket. Sight unseen. I'm like on a game show. It's the Showcase Showdown. Do you want this beautiful vacation? What, you know, with jet skis and airfare and a 5-star hotel? Or you want to roll the dice and see what's behind mystery door number 2? I'm going to take the mystery door. I'm going Darlene freaking Graham, 100%. Who knows? Could I come back and eat my words? Maybe. Or maybe she might be the gift that restores a skosh of credibility to that storied institution. You go, Darlene. We come back on the Wendy Bell radio program. Got to talk about, no wonder they kept Joe locked away from us. You guys, we got some of the leaked Robert Hur audio. Oh my gosh. Grab a seat. You're going to need it next.
All righty. Well, let me go ahead and pause that there. And this will be in my daily news wrap up. So we'll get to hear this. So go ahead and make you some popcorn. Incidentally, right here, clicking on the Rumble link, it's Wendy Bell Radio. This is the video I shared with you. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All righty, let's jump back here. And my goodness, look at everybody chatting up here. Now, I might mention to you folks, okay? Let me copy this right here and slide down here and put this in my comment so it will be a permanent part of the video. Okay, now, all right, I need 75 chats right here. I've got this. I put that in the chat box at the beginning before we started. So far this month, I've got 61 unique chats, which means every person that chats, the first time they chat, that counts. Okay, you can chat a million times after that, but it's for some reason, this is some rule that Rumble has. If you meet these requirements, then they'll help promote this information out. Right now, I have 61 unique chatters, okay? I need, just 14 more? So, if you're out there listening, if you could pop a chat in the chat box, I would greatly appreciate that. Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, give me a frowny face. Let me know what podcaster you like so that maybe I can include that podcaster in my daily news update or my daily news wrap up. Okay, but at any rate, these comments now, boom, or these chats are now a permanent part of this video because, as we all know, when the live stream ends, the live chats just kind of evaporate. So I'm kind of confused here as why that's so important with Rumble, since they go away when the live stream is over. But whatever, it's not my company. Okay, these videos that I've shared with you here are videos that come directly from the producer. I've got the links to the videos as well as the links to the producer's channels here in the description box. And these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com. Right down here's the video from Wendy Bell. Okay? And right here's the video from Dan Bongino. Okay? And here's the video from Dr. Steve Turley. Here's the video from Black Conservative Perspective. So this information is on Murtech.com. The link to Murtech.com is in the description box as well. Come to Murtech.com. It is a free site. You don't have to surf the internet for news and information. This is your one-stop shop for news and information that you're not going to hear on the mainstream media. Okay? It's a free site. I don't ask for your name. I don't ask for your email address. I don't ask you to sign up for a newsletter. I don't drop cookies on your computer or having a bunch of ads popping up in your face. It's just a spot where you can come, and you're pretty much anonymous when you come to Murtech.com, where you can get the up-to-date news. I update the site multiple times a day to give you fresh new information. Okay? But with that being said, I'd like to share all of that with you. Unfortunately, I just don't have the time to do so, and that's why I've put together my daily news wrap-up. It says I have 21 videos in here, about 10 or 11 hours worth of great information. Right here's the Black Conservative Perspective video that I shared earlier, and the Wendy Bell radio video that we just got through watching. Dan Bongino that we watched earlier. We're going to take off where we left off. And we have information from We the People News, X22 Report, And We Know, Steve Day's Show, Nick Fuentes, LFA TV. A ton of great information here, folks. But go ahead and take a break. Grab you a donut and a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and some cheese, or make you some popcorn when you come back and listen to Wendy Bell talking about Joey, how wonderful he was. He's spot on. He's the top of his game. I can't keep up with him. He's just it. I don't know what these Republicans are talking about. Joe Biden is the best I've ever seen him. We'll get to listen to that. But in the meantime, give me about 15 or 20 minutes to get this all set up in Rumble Studio. And I do want to thank you for being here. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later. And may God bless.